There is something I have noticed very clearly over the past few years, especially when talking to people in their 50s or 60s. People do not talk about big dreams as much as they used to. They are no longer excited about laying out long-term plans like they did when they were younger. Instead, their stories revolve around very real, everyday things. Do I still have the strength? Can I still handle it? How much longer can I keep this up? When thinking about the upcoming new year, the question that pops into many people's minds is actually very simple. Will this year be more exhausting than the last? Will something happen that forces me to push myself again? It may sound a little sad, but anyone who has lived long enough understands this. It only takes one overwhelming year to leave you feeling drained. The year 2026 gives many people that kind of feeling. Just hearing that number feels a bit heavy. Some people think about their age. Some start paying more attention to their health. Others are reminded that there are still too many unfinished tasks from the past. So, when they hear that their birth year might require caution, a quiet worry starts to creep in. The kind of worry you do not say out loud. You just wonder to yourself, am I one of them? This video is being shared with a very simple hope. I want to look at the year 2026 with you, but at a slower pace and in a more realistic way. Because there are certain years when even doing the same things as usual feels more draining. Your hands are still working, your mind is still thinking, but your energy runs out faster. If you do not pay attention, you can easily push yourself too far without even realizing how tired you are becoming. So, before we talk about specific age groups, I want to make one thing clear, just to ease your mind. The birth years mentioned here are simply meant to help us understand the rhythm of this year. Some people might need to be more careful. Some might just need to slow down a little. And if your birth year is not mentioned, that does not mean you can go full speed all you want. Every year has its own pace. Every person has their own level of energy. If you find that you were born in one of the years mentioned, just take it as a gentle reminder. This may not be the year to take big risks. It may not be the year to force yourself to move fast. Slow down a little. Be a bit more careful. Often, that is all it takes to make things feel a whole lot easier. And if you are not in that group, it is still worth listening so you can get a feel for the rhythm of the year, so you know when to hold back and when to stop. That alone is more than enough. Before we get into the specific age groups, if you want to, you can take a very short moment just for yourself. You do not need to say anything out loud. You do not need to write anything down. Just quietly think to yourself, I hope in the coming year I am clear-headed enough not to make things harder for myself. Hold on to whatever makes you feel lighter, that is enough. When we look at the year 2026, the clearest thing that stands out is how the general pace of life seems to slow down in a very particular way. Everything still moves forward as usual, but the pace no longer feels as light as it used to. People who are used to living fast and working non-stop like in previous years will likely feel exhausted. Many people step into this year with a strange feeling. There may not be any major upheaval right away, but there is a heaviness inside. The mind no longer feels as clear. The things your hands and body used to handle easily now suddenly take much more effort. The kind of fatigue that comes with this year does not hit all at once. It lingers quietly and lasts. Sleep is less restful. Thoughts become heavier. You become more irritable. And especially, it becomes harder to make firm decisions. Things that used to be resolved quickly now take much longer to consider, and even then, you may still feel unsure. The year 2026 also tends to make people feel overwhelmed from many directions at once. Work is not quite finished before family matters arise. Health starts to show small signs, not serious yet, but enough that you cannot ignore them. Each issue is small on its own, but when added together, it creates a heavy load. When people do not recognize the pace of the year, they often turn that pressure inward. They blame themselves for feeling weaker, for not being as sharp or fast as before. So they push themselves harder, work more, move faster. But this kind of response only makes the exhaustion build up more quickly. Another thing many people may notice this year is how easily mistakes happen when rushing. These are usually small errors, saying something too quickly, signing off on something without thinking, taking on extra responsibilities even when your energy is already stretched thin. By the time you realize it, you are already overwhelmed. Years that move at this kind of pace are not suited for the mindset of just a little more and I'll be done. They demand clarity about your own limits, knowing when to stop, knowing how much energy you truly have left. That is why 2026 sets a very clear expectation. Those who know when to slow down, who know how to conserve their energy, who avoid taking on too much at once, these people tend to get through the year just fine. But those who try to maintain the fast pace of easier years, or try to do more than they can handle, often end up exhausted both physically and mentally. At this point, some of you may feel that the next part speaks directly to you. Others may just be listening out of curiosity. Either way, the purpose of this section is only to help each person understand how to pace themselves so that the year feels lighter. Now let us begin the part that many people are most curious about, the birth years that need to be more cautious in 2026. Let me say this first to ease your mind. Dividing people into these groups is not about labeling anyone or scaring anyone. It is simply a way to recognize the different levels of energy drain people might experience throughout the same year. Some may just need to slow down a little. Others, if not careful, could end up feeling completely depleted. Listening, just to be aware, that is enough. First is the group that needs to be the most cautious. That includes those born in 1963 and 1999. When I think about these two birth years, I get a very real, down-to-earth feeling. At first glance, they may seem like any other years, but if you observe closely, you will see that this group is especially vulnerable to energy drain if they keep living at the same pace as before. The year 2026 does not hit them with one big shock. Instead, it creeps in differently. It feels like being pulled back from several directions at once. Work still happens. Responsibilities are still there. But the more they do, the more exhausted they feel, and it is hard to explain exactly why. What stands out most for this group is how things no longer run smoothly. Work is still there, but results tend to come more slowly than expected. Sometimes, even with a lot of effort, the feedback they get feels underwhelming. Tasks they used to do easily now tend to go wrong in very small ways. What surprises me is how many people in this group always seem slightly tense, working but never fully relaxed, which makes it hard to focus completely. That tension builds up quickly. At first, it is just light fatigue, but then it lingers, and it starts affecting both the body and the mind. It is frustrating, because on the outside, everything looks fine, but inside, energy is being drained, little by little. The hardest part for this group in 2026 is the instinct to blame themselves. When things do not go smoothly, many start thinking they are not trying hard enough, not paying enough attention, or not doing their best. Then they push themselves to work even harder. The more they push, the heavier the year feels. The more they try to surge forward, the more likely they are to burn out. The more they take on, the more tangled their thoughts become. The interesting part is that just by adjusting their pace a little, everything starts to feel easier. Slow down. Be less greedy for tasks. Stop demanding instant results. Choose only a few truly important things to focus on and conserve energy. Once they do this, many in this group notice their fatigue easing, their minds becoming clearer, and small mistakes happening far less often. Second is the group that needs to be very careful. This includes people born in 1954, 1972, 1981, and 1983. For this group, the year 2026 often brings a very different feeling. There is no sudden rush and no major shocks. It is just that before one thing is done, something else pops up. Small things, petty things, but over time, they wear you down. What stands out the most for this group is the feeling of restlessness. Some people feel that their health has been acting strangely lately, not seriously ill, but something just feels off. Others get stuck in family matters, difficult topics that are hard to speak about openly. If they talk about it, it might cause tension, but keeping it in feels heavy. Some deal with constant little issues at work, fixing, redoing, doing things over and over, yet still feeling like nothing is truly finished. Each thing on its own is no big deal. But over the course of a year, they wear down your spirit. The common reaction for this group is impatience. When things do not go smoothly, they want to fix them quickly. They want to wrap things up just to get them off their minds. What I find interesting is that the more they rush, the messier things get. The more they try to finish early, the more problems arise. Some people only want peace, yet accidentally push themselves into prolonged stress. Their body is tired, and their mind is far from calm. This year sets a very challenging but necessary expectation for those born in 1954, 1972, 1981, and 1983. Patience. Patience to handle one thing at a time. Patience to slow down. Patience not to pressure yourself into finishing everything right away, achieving everything instantly, or carrying too much at once. When expectations are lowered just a little, many issues naturally become much lighter. The most important thing for this group in 2026 lies in their mental state. When the mind is steady, they can handle small issues without being swept away by emotion. But when the spirit is already tired, even small problems feel too much. Understanding this, slowing down a little, and being kinder to yourself can help you get through this year safely and with much less energy loss. Third is the group with challenging or somewhat challenging energy. This includes those born in 1990, 1985, 1995, 1987, 1975, and 1979. When I look at this group, I often get a particular impression. These are people who still have strength. They can still manage. They can still carry the load. And that is exactly why they tend to be overconfident. The year 2026 does not bring immediate pressure to this group. In the beginning, many still feel fine. Work keeps moving. Situations are manageable. But then fatigue starts to show up slowly, quietly, not clearly. Just that over time, the body starts responding more slowly. The mood drops more easily. Things that used to be done effortlessly now begin to feel stressful. Some sit down and wonder, there is nothing major going on, so why do I feel so tired? For this group, the issue usually lies in how they use their energy. When they feel capable, many tend to take on more, worry about more, carry more. It sounds reasonable, but the year 2026 wears people down exactly this way. As the workload grows, the mind becomes scattered and energy gets spread too thin. The results they get often do not match the effort they put in. This kind of exhaustion is hard to detect because it builds up slowly and steadily, day after day. What I find interesting is that when people keep the right pace from the start, everything already feels different. Focus only on what truly matters. Drop what is not needed. When people stop chasing quantity and focus on quality, things feel lighter and clearer, not because their situation changed, but because they are no longer pushing themselves too far. For this group, 2026 requires mindfulness in how energy is spent. Just because you still have strength does not mean you should use all of it. Sometimes, saving some for yourself matters more than finishing everything. Those who realize this early usually have a smoother year with less fatigue, less confusion, and fewer long-term effects. What I want you to take from this is simple. Do not worry too much about what group you are in. What matters more is how you align with the rhythm of the year. If your group carries heavier energy, be careful. If not, do not be reckless. The year 2026 is not about winning or losing. It is about not burning yourself out. Once you get that, we can move on to the next part, how each group can take care of themselves and what to avoid to move through the year more smoothly. After going over the age groups, let us pause for something important. How to tell if the year's rhythm is affecting you. Age alone does not show everything. Some outside the caution groups still feel drained. Some in the heavier groups manage just fine by living in sync with the year. That is why your own body and life are your most honest guides. The first clear sign is ongoing fatigue with no obvious reason. It is not from a hard day or week. It just stays. Even with rest, sleep, or time off, you still feel heavy. It is not intense, so people often dismiss it. But if it lingers, it is worth noticing. The second is a mind that feels more cluttered. Simple tasks now take longer. Small decisions come with doubt. Many blame themselves for being slow, but often it is a sign that the year does not support fast moves or quick choices. Another sign is being more irritable or restless, often over small things, a random comment, a tiny disruption. When your energy is drained, patience runs thin, and many do not realize that is what is happening. You might also see delays or repeated do-overs. Not full failures, but things rarely go right the first time. Years like this are not good for multitasking. The more you try to juggle, the more little problems pop up and tire you out. If two or more of these signs show up at once, the year may be asking you to live a bit differently. Not out of fear, but adjustment. Slower, simpler, and with better timing. Catching it early helps you avoid burnout. That is the real goal of reading a year's rhythm, not fear, but awareness. Once you notice the year affecting you, the next steps are simple. Take a closer look at how you are living. Years like 2026 ask us to do less. Slow down. Stop forcing ourselves to keep up. Avoid rushing big decisions when tired. Doing just that makes things lighter. In heavy years like this, the first priority is saving energy. That sounds basic, but people forget. It is not just about rest. It is about being selective. Do what truly matters. Let the rest wait. You do not need to handle everything. When you let go of some things, your mind feels clearer. Next, slow down before major decisions. This year is not great for quick changes or emotional leaps. Think things through. Sit on them a bit longer. Talk to someone you trust. That alone can prevent many regrets. Not because you are weak, but because this year calls for certainty. Another real but easy to miss point. Keep your daily routine stable. Irregular sleep, rushed meals, chaotic habits quietly drain you. But when your schedule and space are in order, your body and mind start balancing again. Most of all, be kinder to yourself in tough years. Stop blaming yourself, stop comparing, stop forcing yourself to match your pace from easier years. Each year has its own rhythm. When you follow that, life feels easier. Years like this are not for testing your limits, they are for learning to protect yourself. And once you get through it, you often come out stronger than before. By now, I believe many of you see yourself somewhere in the picture of 2026. Maybe you are in a group that needs more care, maybe not. But if you ask me after many years that seemed bad but were okay, or seemed easy but were not, I have learned one thing. A tough year is not one to fear, but one to protect yourself in. The birth years mentioned in this video are just signs to help us understand the rhythm, not labels, not limits. If the year feels heavy, ease up. If it feels draining, protect your energy. Not because you are weaker, but because with time, you learn moving with the right rhythm always costs less. I have never believed that destiny controls everything. But I do believe this. If you go against the rhythm for too long, you are the one who will suffer most. But if you know when to stop, when to slow down, then even in hard years, you will still have the peace and clarity to keep going. If your 2026 is simply a year where you sleep more deeply, worry less, your family stays stable, and your health does not take a hit, then to me, that is already a precious year. You do not need approval. You do not need comparison. As long as you can say, I made it through, then that is enough. Before we end this video, if you want, take a quiet moment for yourself. No need to speak, no need to write. Just think, I hope next year I stay clear enough not to make things harder for myself. That alone is a kind and meaningful wish. Thank you for staying until the end. Not to believe everything I said, but to listen and reflect. If this helped you feel just a little lighter, a little less anxious, then sharing it was already worth it. Thank you for staying until the end of this video. Not to believe everything I said, but to listen and reflect. If after turning off this video, your heart feels a little lighter, a little less anxious, then to me that makes sharing this truly worthwhile.